Today, March 13, 2017, there was news of the following. Ciara injured in car accident. Stan Lee pulls out of Big Apple Comic-Con for health reasons. Barca lost to Deportivo right after the PSG victory. Throughout Barca, Real won the La Liga lead. President Trump may meet Chinese president in April. War situation in Syria after his parish. Ciara injured in car accident. Pregnant R&B star Ciara has been involved in a car accident in Los Angeles. The Goodies singer, who is scheduled to give birth to her second child this spring, 17, was driving along Wilshire Boulevard in her white Mercedes sports utility vehicle when another motorist, driving a Volvo, slammed into the passenger side of her SUV as she was making a left turn. Eyewitnesses tell TMZ, police and paramedics were on the scene minutes after the crash occurred and Ciara was spotted walking around her SUV, talking on a phone while nursing what appeared to be an injured chest and shoulder. The singer's husband Russell Wilson also dashed to the scene of the drama to comfort his heavily pregnant wife. However, fans should not too concerned following the scare. Ciara's representative has issued a statement, to just Jared assuring, "Everything is fine." Before heading out, Ciara took to Instagram to address backlash from her recent Harper's Bazaar photo shoot, for which she, Wilson and her young son Future posed nude. Fans found the snap of the trio embracing off-putting and awkward, but Ciara thought it was beautiful. Responding to the feedback, she posted a photo of a fan wearing an adult diaper, embracing her young son as her faceless partner clutched both from behind. She added the caption, "Pure comedy. Love this." Stan Lee pulls out of Big Apple Comic-Con for health reasons. Comic book legend Stan Lee has pulled out of an appearance at the Big Apple Comic-Con due to poor health. The 94-year-old was billed to meet fans at the New York City event this weekend, March 17, 11/12, but he'll be a no-show. In a message to attendees on Friday 10 March 17, organizers of the convention wrote, "Big Apple Comic-Con has just been informed that due to health issues Stan Lee will not be appearing at the convention Saturday, March 11 or Sunday, March 12. Stan keeps to an amazing schedule and it seems to have taken its toll. We are terribly sorry for any inconvenience, but the show must go on. We are going to have a tremendous weekend loaded with great guests, exhibitors and events. Let's all wish Stan well and party like you know he wants us to." Lee, a mainstay in the Marvel Universe for decades, created the characters Spider-Man, the Hulk, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Daredevil, Thor, and the X-Men, and he often appears in cameos in Marvel movies. Real Madrid break record scoring existed over half a century. A 21 win over Real Betis in La Liga last weekend was the 48th straight game of coach Zidane Barca face. Real won the lead. La Liga/Zidane concede Real Madrid hard 3 days dense a match. Real Madrid break record scoring existed over half a century. More than 50 years ago, Benfica scored in 47 games in all competitions from December 1963 to January 1965. This record has just been demoted. Real Madrid after the win over Betis yesterday, December 3. The players for Real are Sergio Ramos and Cristiano Ronaldo. The last time Real did not score in a game was a semi-final first leg against City at Etihad Stadium last season. The series consisted of 48 consecutive wins including 34 victories, 11 draws and only 3 defeats since the Manchester derbies. Victory over Betis not only helped Real set a new record but also put the team to the top of La Liga. Real are 62 points while team ranked second Barca stopped 60 points with defeat at Deportivo. Real will extend the gap with Barca 5 points, if won the match with Celta Vigo. Barca lost to Deportivo right after the PSG victory. Catalonia lost to Deportivo 12 in the 27th round in La Liga, thanks to the opportunity to better use. Deportivo scored twice with Joselu and Bergantinos. Meanwhile, Barca is tired and lacking in creativity. The new team that made up the history of the Champions League just one goal from the strain of Luis Suarez based on team elements. The fans can analyze the reasons for the failure coming from the lack of players. Due to injury, Neymar wing striker has to leave the competition. Iniesta and Rakitic are also not included in the main roster in the midfield, by not being able to hit the strongest team. Barca soon have to suffer the result of reduced performance. In the whole game, the defending champion only had 5 goals in the away goal against Deportivo's 9. In addition to the lack of many pillars, the decline of the players on the pitch is also a source of failure for Barca. Messi proved less sharp both in finishing and tectonic, while Arda Turan not replaced Neymar. Meanwhile, Deportivo proved to be effective with defensive counter-attacking tactics. The home side started to be more dangerous from the second half of the first half and had a lead in the lead. After 40 minutes, after keeper Ter Stegen did not neutralize the Mascherano's volley, Joselu struck in close range. Compared to most of his teammates, Luis Suarez is a rare player in the side of Barca. The striker showed clear acumen and assertiveness when he hit the near post with a 11 draw. In the 46th minute, facing Luis Suarez's header, German Lux keeper was barely able to react. The ball goes too fast and dangerous. What surprised the majority of viewers is that Barca cannot maintain excitement after the table, relying heavily on defensive play. Deportivo has caused great hardships for the Giants. Not only that, the home team also took advantage of the opportunity to score goals, scored full points. After 74 minutes, after the corner, Bergantinos hit the head to set a 21 victory. This is the second in less than half a month Bergantinos became famous in Spain, last time on March 2nd. The midfielder was the culprit for Fernando Torres to fall unconscious in the match against Deportivo Atletico 11 with a loss in round 27. Barca are losing hope to defend the La Liga championship. The team now has 60 points, 2 points behind Real and more than one match. If Celta Vigo win the match, Real will make a 5-point gap. President Trump may meet Chinese president in April. U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping at his Mar-a-Lago resort in the state of Florida in April. The summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and the President of China Xi Jinping is scheduled to take place at the Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, a senior U.S. government official told CNN today. According to Axios, the meeting lasted for 2 days between 6th and 7th April. This information has not been verified. The White House and Xi's representative have not commented yet. U.S. officials noted the plan was still only expected. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson will complete plans for a summit with Chinese officials as he arrives in Beijing this week. Information about the meeting will be the first time between Mr. Trump and Mr. Xi appeared in times of tension in the area increased. The United States and China have recently held a series of high-level meetings to reaffirm bilateral relations. During the campaign, Trump accused China of adopting unequal trade policy, criticizing Beijing's illegal artificial Islandization in the South China Sea, and making little effort to contain North Korea. After taking office on January 20, Trump sent a letter to Mr. Xi, wishing to have a constructive relationship and telephone conversations with the then Chinese leader. Situation of the Tiger War in Syria after the IS death. The collapse of the IS could cause the United States and its militaries in Syria to sink deep into the power struggle with no way out. Syrian president forces U.S. troops as invaders/heavy artillery and U.S. Marines to Syria against IS. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has recently accused the United States of aggression when deploying military forces on its territory without the legitimate government's permission. With the presence of U.S. ground troops, the Syrian battlefield is now slowly turning into a fifth-tiger war as state-run Israeli militias disintegrate, according to the National Review. Matthew Continetti, a veteran security analyst in Washington, said that with the participation of Russian troops, Syrian government forces, Turkish military forces, Kurdish militia and now the unit's special forces, U.S. artillery, is no longer have the opportunity to survive. However, Continetti also warned that recent events suggest that his crush in Syria was just the beginning of a new U.S. intervention in the Middle East, with prices that the people of Israel and President Donald Trump may not have imagined. The Manbij city of northwestern Syria may be considered a case in point for the post-IS world fighting scene. The Kurdish militia under the aegis of the U.S. Air Force, along with Turkish armored units, have driven IS off this important town since last year, but in recent days, the Humvee armored vehicle and Stryker infantry battalions with American flags appear regularly in the city. Their mission is not to destroy the IS, but to do something far less military in nature. It was a deterrent and reassuring campaign that prevented rival camps from killing each other in these clean zone. One of the objects that American troops must be deterred in Manbij is the Turkish army, a NATO member and ally with the United States in the fight against IS. Turkish troops crossed the Syrian border, close to Manbij in the name of destroying the IS, but their ultimate goal was the Kurdish militia, YPG. Ankara accuses the YPG of having links with the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which Turkey considers terrorist and wants to prevent them from establishing an autonomous region on their borders. However, the YPG is the most effective Uzld anti-IS force, an indispensable ingredient in the IS war on the Iraq. The situation is even more complex as there are also Russian military presence in Manbij, who are helping Syrian government units manage villages that have just been liberated from IS control. It is the Kurds who also invite Russian troops to stay in the newly liberated areas of Manbij, which they consider to be a counterbalance to the Turkish influence. As a result, 5 powerful armed forces, Russia, the United States, Turkey, Syria and Kurdish militia, have assembled in a foreign city that is not of strategic importance. Hand out the door. In such a narrow battlefield space, the gathering of the tigers greatly increases the risk of miscalculation and misunderstandings. At the meeting with Russian and Turkish generals earlier this week, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States Army, Joseph Dunford, said Manbij was now a potential fire. Ralph Peters, NY Post commentator, said that after the IS collapse, the United States would be the biggest loser in the Syrian conflict. The moderate US-backed insurgency has basically been wiped out, while Kurdish militias close to them are fiercely opposed to Turkey. Turkey itself recently expressed a warmer relationship with Russia, while Assad's administration was backed by Moscow to strengthen its consolidation of power once the IS is defeated. The role of America in the Middle East in general and Syria in particular is no longer needed. At that time, Washington was vulnerable to being handcuffed to the door, Peters said. In the case of the U.S. trying to stay in Syria, Continetti said that the U.S. involvement in this country would follow the path of pity. After fulfilling the original narrow goal of destroying IS, the U.S. would have to shoulder many other responsibilities in the post-conflict period. It is the same vague, unspecific policies that killed U.S. troops in Lebanon in 1983 and Somalia 10 years later, in places where peacekeeping missions have been successfully implemented, such as Bosnia and Herzegovina. Their missions are clarified from the beginning, authorized by stakeholders and invested in adequate resources, but such things did not appear during the American intervention in Syria. In the war in Syria, the United States will have to answer many big questions, according to Continetti. What will happen after IS fall in Iraq? Should U.S. troops stay in Syria once IS has been defeated, and if so, for what purpose? How does the U.S. stand with the Kurdish independence movement, and how will they speak to Turkey if it supports the movement? U.S. President Donald Trump is clearly the one who will have to answer these big questions, as well as be ready to defend his plans, with the United States and other parties involved in the war in Syria. The situation may end with the lives of soldiers, by the loss of reputation, or even by a larger conflict, the expert emphasized.